What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Celtic Fans TV. It's time for live full-time reaction to Bristol City nil, Celtic nil, in the final pre-season of the Tour of Wales, if you want to call it that. I'm joined by Martin and Callum tonight to go through the game. You can ask your questions and put your comments in a live chat box below, and we'll try and pick out any good ones as we go through. Callum, we'll start with you, mate. What did you make of that tonight?
What did I not make of it? I don't know, it was quite a bore fest, if I'm honest. It was probably more just the typical pre-season that you get. No one's really wanting to go in. I was going to say full blows, but I mean, we got a couple of injuries, didn't we? So that's probably the negative that we've taken away from the game. But some of the boys are getting another 90 minutes in their legs, 60 minutes. Over the mini trip that we've had in Wales, I've been quite impressed with Liam Shaw. He's somebody that's kind of stood up and kind of took that midfield because he knows it's there. The chances there, obviously, for him to get regular game time with Scott Brown departing. So I feel he's been quite a good player that I've seen so far. But I don't know, it's quite hard because it's just tonight was just it was a bore fest. I'm hoping that the lucky 2,000 people that are going on Saturday against Preston gets a much better showing than what we did tonight, because it was a typical Bourne Wednesday friendly.
Aye, Martin, it did have that typical pre-season feel to it, but I think in the first half, it's similar to Saturday. We kind of dominated the first half, and we did so again tonight. I think you can tell how we're going to start games under Postecoglou. We're going to try and get in the front foot, move the ball quickly early doors, and we did that without creating any real chances.
Yeah, no, a decent enough performance without being impressive. Huffed and puffed. I suppose after losing a couple of goals in the last couple of games, maybe one of the emphasis tonight was on keeping a clean sheet. We managed to achieve that, but just a better stale game overall. But nothing to be overly concerned about, as Callum says, the injuries, and that's always a risk in these games, particularly when you've got a massive game coming up and you've got a squad that you isn't necessarily strongest. We're hoping it's going to get a lot stronger than what it is just now, but. What do you put out your first 11 players and do you take risks? And the last thing we need is injuries going into this game next week. So it appears to be trying different things, trying young players, obviously players that are new to the club, and also giving players a second chance as well. That's quite evident. But could you predict the starting 11 for next week at this junction? I'm not sure we could. I had a quick look to see who started the last three games, and I think at a quick calculation there's 5 started the last 3 games. So. Are those 5 likely to be in the starting 11? Possibly, probably, but not definitely. But yeah, not a game that you'll watch a second time. Once was enough tonight.
No, definitely not. That was one of the first things I wrote down tonight. Actually, how similar is tonight's starting 11 going to be to the team that faces Midtjylland in 7 days' time, Callum? Of course, that 11. From before the game didn't even get out onto the pitch tonight because Barkas got injured before the game. And then over the course of the first half, both Mikey Johnson and Karol Moko-Dembele went off injured. So even if it was going to be something similar to that next week, it might be a whole lot different now with the injuries.
Aye, it's quite scary. Maybe we can get an emergency loan and just get Scott Brown back just for this one game, and then just give him back to Aberdeen if he wants, because I don't know, we're going to struggle. You're guaranteed to probably have Anthony Ralston, Bain, Taylor. I don't know where Isles' head's at the moment. He's obviously angry at the
nowhere,
club.
Mate. He's not even featured, has he? He hasn't featured in any of these friendlies. So, he's out the door.
Yeah, he's leaving. And with rumours of obviously the boy from Ruben Kazan, possibly he might start. But then again, that's a player that doesn't even know Scotland.
First.
Exactly. And do you know what? It's kind of our faults. In a sense, it's the board's fault because they let this go on, and it goes all the way back to Eddie Howe. I'm not going to get into it, but it goes for not getting your man when you really wanted them and just go and getting them. And if you don't get them, move on, get your next target. And we just know that Celtic don't move like that as a club right now. They're run really poorly, and this is usually what happens. They're setting themselves up to fail. So it's not looking good. Midtjylland are a very good side. People are probably putting them under as very like a small team. They're not great. They finished second in the Danish league, but don't get me wrong, they are a very good side, and they've actually got a lot better since they played our City rivals when they had them in a qualifying round. So they have got better. Obviously, Sviatchenko's coming back. if he was in our team, would he start? He probably would. So there's a player in Midtjylland that there's probably a good few players that would get in our squad as well. That's how weak we are at the moment. We've seen tonight that we obviously signed Abada. We'll cover that later. But we need so much more signings, and I worry because where's Edward in the picture as well? We're covering Nair. Is Edward going to go? Is he not? Why not use him and try and get us through these games, through these ties?
I think tonight he was injured because he went off with some sort of niggle on Saturday, so I think that's why he didn't feature tonight. But he is in the same boat as Aya, where we don't really know. Obviously, the speculation in terms of bids for Edward has cooled down, whereas it's kind of reaching its peak with Aya. But that certainly doesn't help us going into next week. Martin, tonight, and defensively, we didn't really create any glaring chances. Didn't work their goalkeeper enough, but defensively we were relatively solid. You could say Bristol City came closest to scoring out the two teams, but I think the only one was for a corner in the first half, and I think the second one right at the end was from a corner as well. We did dominate the game and we controlled it. We restricted them to creating next to no chances as well, even though it was an inexperienced defence that we had at the night.
I think as much as we've talked about the high press and using the wings and all that sort of stuff under the new manager and his tactics, our primary failing last year was defensive set plays. And when we look at the other side of the city, their strength was not losing goals. So I would be surprised that despite his approach to games and his tactical approach, I'd be surprised if there isn't a lot of focus within the club on strengthening the back four and losing less goals. So losing a couple of goals in the first two games against opposition that you'd expect to do well against. I'm pleased to see tonight that we kept a clean sheet because we'll have to get that right, don't we? Going into the season, we can't start this season as we finished or the journey that we had the whole of last year, where every time there's a set play we lost a goal and broke all sorts of records for the wrong reasons from a defensive perspective. So yeah, pretty satisfied as to how strong we are at the back. And as you say, when you look at the back line that was out, it's not one you would get excited about. But obviously the tactics we're playing and the message from the manager's getting the point across around how we should defend properly and better than we did last year. So that's encouraging, albeit we've played three teams that you would expect to do well against. But you can't read too much into these pre-season friendlies. The number of changes that are made in some of these games and the different things that the manager's trying. He's not come into a normal environment. He's come into anarchy. Players wanting away. The players that want to stay haven't been performing. The morale's low. Where do you start? Do you have a look at the youth? And he has done that. And I'm really, really pleased to see he's done that. He's had a really good look at some of the youth players. And he's obviously brought a couple of players in, not necessarily household names, but how often in recent years have we brought players in that we've not necessarily. Well, there's been two types of signings. We've brought in players that haven't played. There's been far too many of them. But we've also brought in, over the last 10 years plus, we've brought in players who haven't necessarily been household names who've turned out to be really, really good assets for the club. So we have to hope that some of our signings are going to be better this year. And it'll be interesting to see, your Barcases and your Ayeti and people like that, because that's your next category as well, isn't it? There's the players that have been there forever and they're stale. There's the guys that we signed last year that didn't perform and can they perform under a new manager? There's the youth guys and there's new faces. And where do you start with all that and try and get a settled team? And he's only going to have 4 games before that huge match next week. So I don't envy him for sure. And having a stab at what I think the starting lineup will be for next week, I think it's looking likely that he'll Bain, Ralston, Welsh, Taylor, Sorrow, Turnbull, and Ayeti. I think, but there's certainly some spaces up for grabs for sure.
I think so, and I think you make a good point about getting a settled team. That is the big challenge for the manager over the next few weeks, trying to get a settled team, embed his new signings, integrate them all while trying to implement his new philosophy. Callum, we've heard a lot about the new philosophy. Can you see elements of it already in what you've seen for pre-season games? Callum, are you with us?
I would say so. You see him try to put it for the back a lot more. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, keep going, mate. I think your connection's struggling a wee bit. Yeah, he's gone. Martin, I'll put that to you, mate. Can you see the sort of elements of Postecoglou's setup that we've all read and heard about before he came? Can you see them starting to be implemented in these pre-season games?
Yeah. I got the opportunity, thanks to you, Paul, to get a bit of time with a couple of the players. I wasn't sure what players were going to get the opportunity to speak to, but I was hoping it would be players who were there last year and they're going to tell us, what's the difference at training, what's the tactical difference between John Kennedy and Neil Lennon and what we've got now. But the two players got the chance to speak to were new signings, so they couldn't make that comparison. But it was still interesting to ask what they felt the manager brought compared to what they've seen, with other managers. And they talked about things like encourages you to be brave enough to make mistakes. Mistakes are okay as long as you learn from them. Talks about winning the ball back when you lose it, which far too often last year we didn't see that happening. We'd lose the ball and then, and the accountability wasn't there. People were making, half an effort rather than a full effort. He talks about the energy in the team and the high press and, making sure that you're playing on your toes the whole game, that you pass the ball quickly. Everything I heard from the two lads from Sheffield Wednesday encouraged me and made me feel good about the direction that we're going. And almost everything that he said felt the polar opposite to what we observed last year. So it feels like a huge change. And I think he'll bring energy. He'll bring completely different tactics. And what I suppose we're all hoping is that not only will he re-energise the guys who want to stay there, but he might manage to keep some of the guys who we would like to stay. But I think we're kidding ourselves on. I think one or two of them have made their minds up and they're going to move on. So that's unfortunate. But equally, if they don't want to be at the club, you'd rather they did move on. We've seen that with players like Boyata in the past, where you've tried to force their hand, and Dembele as well, and tried to, tell them they're not leaving and they're staying, and it doesn't work out, does it? Because you just get a disengaged player, and the impact that has on the team is quite significant. So these guys want to move on, but I think everything that I heard from those two players on, I think it was on Friday, Thursday or Friday last week, Paul, was encouraging. I think he's bringing an awful lot. He's bringing, some man management skills, lots and lots of tactical ideas, lots of energy. I think he's going to be really good for the team. And there was a lot of concerns when he first came in around was he the right man for the job? But I don't think he's done much wrong. I think everything we've seen, everything we've heard, we've been encouraged by. So yeah, I'm much more optimistic than I was in the early days.
Callum, we've brought you back in, mate. We'll try again.
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
It's all right. This is the joys of live broadcasting, innit? We've seen, over the past two games now, we've seen the international players come integrated back into the team. And I thought Callum McGregor tonight in the first half was really good, and he's going to be an important player for us this season.
Aye, he's the only really one that I can look at in the team now and just heavily depend on. He's the only real player that you can depend on. There's no one really else. It's all youth and it's new players coming in, and there's a lot more going to be coming in as well. So he is the only real backbone of the club that we've got. Maybe James Forrest, but I feel as if you lean on him sometimes, it takes away from his game. McGregor's got to change that. He's got to become in the essence of the new Scott Brown. He's got to lead in a way that he's never really led before. And so he's got a massive season coming up ahead of him. And but he's our main player. And could you imagine if he get injured? I mean, where would we be? We'd be screwed. We'd be so screwed. And that just that shows you how weak a squad that we've actually got. That we're going to struggle if we lose somebody like him. I mean, it's quite scary. We need probably another midfielder. I would guess as well brought in. We're losing Scott Brown. What's happening with Cham? What's happening with Rogic? I've seen pictures of him at training, but he's not showed up once yet. So you've always wanted Paul. You've always says like his time's probably up. He's got to go. But I mean, the guy just never seems to either be fit or he never moves. So I don't know what's going on right now, but. They have got a massive couple of days coming up. Am I right in saying that tomorrow's the last day to register any players, and then you get 2 wild cards to register on Monday? Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
So I mean, unless they've got 4 or 5 bodies flying over tonight, and we don't know, then they need to pull their finger out pretty quickly because what's that saying? Is preparing to fail is failing to prepare. It's what the board are doing, and it's evident we're seeing it. So I am quite worried that we've let it go, and we're heading into August. Not far the season's going to start, and what 2 weeks is it? 2 weeks the season starts, two weekends. So it's quite concerning that we've not really got the bus going, if you want to call it that, of getting players on the bus because we're struggling right now.
I think we'll come in a minute to talk a wee bit more about recruitment and the players. That is obviously something I talked about with Kenny at the weekend as well. It's the same old story with Celtic. It's like what comes first, do you invest first and then get through the qualifiers, or do you get through the qualifiers and then invest? And too often with Celtic, it's the latter, and we don't get through them. Martin, just last one on Callum McGregor. Do you think he could benefit from? It looks like Postecoglou, as the formation looks like more of a 4-3-3 as opposed to a 4-2-3-1 that we've seen so often in the last season or two. And Callum McGregor at times has been really deep in that formation. Do you think he can have a wee bit more freedom if Soro can be the sole deep sitting midfielder and he's got a bit more license to roam?
Yeah, and it's his best position by a country mile. I convinced myself of that last year, watching him get deeper and deeper and deeper, and he wasn't effective in that role. He can play it. He's a versatile player, but Callum McGregor's best position is offensive, and the higher up the pitch he plays, the better impact he has. And he can break up play. He can be that guy in front of the back four. He can play the Scott Brown role. He's obviously good on the left side, but Ali can play in as high up as the number 10 position. He really is a clever player, and whether it's scoring goals or playing the second pass before the assist, he often does that. He doesn't necessarily get the assist, but he'll play the pass before the assist. I'd love to see him playing higher up, because last year he was made to look half the player that he has done in previous seasons, because he was playing deeper than Barkas at times. It's just ridiculous how far back he had to go to try and help the team last year. I think our biggest issue going into next week and for the season is going to be our width. So to talk about the two players tonight, Dembele and Johnston. We're really hoping that those two guys might go a wee run in the team, because they're both similar type players with regards to they're not predictable. They can go inside, they can go outside. They've got energy, they've got quick feet. They've got a wide range of skills where you're not sure whether they're going to dribble or they're going to pass, they're going to cross, they're going to hit the byline. And we really need that width, because we didn't have that last year. It was an absolute joke. We're relying on Elanushi and Christie, and we tried so many combinations out in the wing on both sides, and it just didn't work. So, and then of course the guys behind that were made to look even worse, because they were trying to do two jobs. They were trying to defend and they were trying to hit the byline, and Taylor and various others. We had 6, 8 or 10 players all trying to play in those positions at the back, and they didn't have anybody in front of them to help them. So that's my biggest concern. That we're getting quite excited at the weekend about seeing how well we're using the width, and the wide areas look much better, and the manager was keen to take advantage of that. But you need to have the personnel to be able to play those tactics, and in the absence of Forrest, Johnson and Dembele, I really have concerns over what are the alternative options.
Yeah, I think out wide is a big area of difficulty for us just now, the way the squad is. Stephen saying he was excited to see Dembele getting a shot this year. Hopefully he can still get that. I don't think the injury was it was a shocking tackle tonight, but I don't think the injury was too bad. He got up and walked off. So hopefully it's just impact and he'll be fine. Johnston goes off as well. I think they said that looked like a hamstring. Both of those players have got, as you say, Martin, that unpredictability, bit of explosive energy. They can commit defenders, but Mikey Johnston's injury record is absolutely terrible. And regardless of what you think of his ability, and I know a lot of people have criticised him in terms of the final ball and stuff, but if he's not fit, then he can't be an option for us. He can't be relied upon to be available, because he's injured so often. We did make a signing today, though. Callum, Leo Abadat came in, 19-year-old, plays predominantly from the right wing, which might be surprising given that we've got James Forrest, but he hasn't been involved so far in pre-season. We think that this boy can play anywhere along the front line, in the middle, or from the left as well. Encouraging to get a player in, the third signing of the season, and an attacking player. And as we've said, out wide is a big area where we need to improve.
Yeah, I seen also the club announced it, and he's probably somebody that might even go straight in. I was reading something just before we came on live there, and he was saying that he's fully up to speed, that he's match ready. So he might even be somebody that starts next Tuesday, maybe. I'm not too sure, because the question is, why is James Forrest not really getting game time in pre-season? He never
he's injured,
any game time at the Euros.
I think he's injured.
Is it? I mean, how big's that?
He didn't travel to Wales. He didn't travel to Wales, so
it's worrying that we're so weak on players. And then, as you said, Mikey Johnston can't be reliable. He can't be reliable anymore. His injury record is horrendous. Honestly, just give me a contract now and I'll play either. That's pretty much it. Honestly, it's just people would shout and say, "Oh no, I don't want this player or that player." But I said it ages ago. What about Martin Boyle, just as a backup, somebody like that who's always Mr. Reliable for Hibs? He's always there. He's always. These are things that people need to read into as well. People say Mickey Jones has got all the talent in the world. You can have all the talent in the world, but first of all, you need to be fit. You need to be able to run, and you need to be able to stay away from injuries. I get it, injuries happen, but his record is just is atrocious. So it's good to get Abada. Abada into the team. It's good to get him in, and I think he'll go straight in. I think he'll go straight in Tuesday into the game.
That'd be exciting. I've been corrected in the comments. Forrest was isolating. That's right. I think he was a close contact to somebody who tested positive for COVID, right. So he had to wait back in Scotland. Martin, a lot of talk about Carl Starfelt, centre half coming in from Rubin Kazan. I think if we're going to get another signing before Tuesday, it is likely to be him. It's likely to be at centre half. Would you be confident if we get Starfelt or another centre half in along with Abada, that will be enough for us going into the game against Midtjylland?
I think it'll certainly help. I mean, if Forrest is going to be back in for Tuesday, that would be a solution on the right side, wouldn't it? And the team starts to take a bit shape. You know, if those two signings were to start, you know, if we're to get the centre back in, and we had the option of the signing that we've made tonight to play on the left side, the team starts to take shape, and you get a little bit more confident. You know, I suspect Bain will start, and then you've got Ralston. If the signing comes off for our centre back, alongside, I'm guessing it'll be Welsh and Taylor at the back. With Sorrow, Turnbull, Forrest, McGregor. Our new signing tonight, and Ayeti is potentially, but there are so many other names. You just look back and you think, you know, we're talking about Eddie and Ayer and Christie, maybe all wanting away, and then Cham and Rogic that Callum talked about earlier on. Are they going to feature? If so, to what extent? They still have a place in the team, and then, you know, your Julians and Johnson as well. You know, we need loads and loads of luck at the start of the season. If you look back on last year and what had the Griffiths debacle and ball and goalie, and it was one thing after another from the word go, and injuries was a factor as well alongside the Dubai stuff. It was one thing after another. Whereas you look at Rangers, for example, and they didn't have those injuries. So we need to hope that this isn't the start off. We've had the Griffiths saga. You know, we've got injuries that we're talking about tonight. We're talking about isolating, and just think, oh, here we go again. Please, let's get off to a stronger start and have a bit of luck on our side as well, because we desperately need it right now. Yeah,
absolutely. Callum Martin's running through the team there, what the team could possibly look like next week, and there is still more than a few areas you think at left back and left wing as well, and then what's happening up front. Do you think if Edward, whether he's got a niggle or whether his head's elsewhere with speculation, that we would go with Ayeti? There's still a lot to be decided in terms of that starting 11 for next week.
Yeah, I think if there's one thing that we should have learned is that don't play somebody that doesn't want to be here. We felt that last year against Ferencváros when Neil Lennon came out, and obviously he knew that the players didn't want to be there before that game, but still played them, and we paid the ultimate price for it, basically, for them, obviously us getting knocked out. So if Edward doesn't want to be here, which I think he doesn't, then don't play him. Why are you giving your time to get somebody else fitter, more up to speed, for him to go and join another club, and then someone else in our club's not had that game time to then catch up? So don't do it. If Albion Ayeti's the only striker that we've got, that it looks like that we do only have, there's another position. I don't know what's going to happen. Really, Griffiths, Edwards, I think is going to go, and obviously Klamala's left and Bio's left. So we're so weak in that area as well. So honestly, the board's got such a massive job to do. And as Martin says, you need a lot of luck. You need a lot of luck on your side. We everything about COVID and players coming in, do they need to isolate? So anybody that's coming into the country that we are signing, do they need to isolate for 10 days? I really don't know. But all I do know is the board's kind of brought it on themselves, and fair play to all the fans that renewed their season tickets after a hell of a season through the worst time of our lives, and we've all backed them again. But yet again, they've let the fans down by taking the absolute piss and just leaving it so late. And whatever you want to think of the board and give them a new chance, it seems to be the same stuff that they're doing, and they just don't learn at this level, and that's why we always get put out at this level.
Aye, it's the same. It's the same debate we have every year, innit? Groundhog Day again and again. Martin, to round us up, back to tonight. I thought in the first half we played really well, and in the pre-season games so far, I've been encouraged by the change in our attacking play and the speed of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think, you know, from the early days we were told that's what the manager would bring. We bring the high press, we bring the move the ball first time or take one touch and move it quickly, and then be there to receive it as well. Don't just pass and stop, pass and move. When Celtic have been at their best over the last couple of years, it's been because the player in possession of the ball has had 2 or 3 options at all times. When we were at our lowest last year, it was the polar opposite. The player in possession didn't have any options. And the new manager is going to bring that. He instills that in the team. And if you're in possession, you should be able to pass the ball back the way, forward, left or right, and have 4 good options, because players are moving and they're peeling away from players at all times. That's going to be the difference this year, and I think that's what Andrew's going to bring to the team, and we've seen evidence of that already. And I'm sure as we get into competitive games, we'll see that to a greater extent. And of course, once he gets his settled 11 and he's still building the team, I couldn't agree more that we would have liked to have seen more than three new faces, and none of them are household names. I do think they all bring something, and they could all, you know, cement a permanent place in the team. But that wouldn't be too difficult. Just I think I've maybe got a wee chance to get in the game if I get myself into training. But I do think they could come in, they could add value. So that's encouraging. But they're not big signings. They're not the signings that get the fans along at the stadium to get excited. Will there be any marquee signings before next week? I'd be very surprised. Callum's talked about the cut-off dates, etc. I think there are 2, isn't there? There's one for this stage, and then there's one for the Champions League offer. Champions League proper, should we get there? It seems like the impossible dream. But yeah, we are where we are, and I think one of the important things for me this year is Callum says, the fans have put their hands in their pocket again and invested in the club. I really hope that the fans do their best to be resilient this year and get behind the team. You could argue that the post-season started in September last year. It's been a long time, isn't it? But the bubble was burst as we had no shots on goal against Rangers in that first home game, and we got blown away in Europe. We were absolutely terrible in Champions League and the Europa. So, you know, it genuinely feels like we've had the opportunity to prepare for this season since September, October last year, and we're nowhere near prepared. So, but we are where we are, and we need to get behind the new manager predominantly, the new signings, and the guys that want to be there, and hopefully those that want to go will offload them quickly, because there is no benefit to them disappearing on the last day, transfer day. We want them to go as soon as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll do us for tonight. It's on to Preston on Saturday before the big game against Midtjylland next Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Like this video, comment with your own thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you soon. Cheers.